I was going back, back in the day and thinking of everything you've done in the community, the inspiration, because not only, a pastor, it's, you're on 24/7. There's no days off. There's no days you can put the phone down. It's like being the chief. You can't say, hey, I'm off today. This is my time to myself. This is my family time. And you got a beautiful wife of 34 years, Brenda, and your children, your grandchildren, on top of your job in the community of being a leader. And you can't say no. And your family has to understand, and it starts with the foundation in your family. And I do want to recognize you for letting us have so much of your husband and your family and yourself, your dedication to the church and to the community. So thank you.
This is very important because I look at this crowd and you reflect the award winner. I see many people in this crowd who I know have helped somebody in need at some point, and usually frequently. And that's what we're put on this earth to do. And I tell fourth graders when they're in a big group to look to the left or right, look behind them, look in front of them. They'll see someone who will need their help in the coming weeks. Well, our award winner looks for those people who need help. And he's always there. And if you've seen anyone on this earth smile more than Pastor Traynham, do you smile more than Pastor Traynham? Okay, then that means you're a relative. But David is always there for us.
He has made a difference because, it's one of them things, and I always say that, they're on the front line here in our community. They see people every day. They see people in church all day on Sunday, and they can tell if there's a difference, if someone stops showing up, if someone's being lost in the community, someone talks to them and they have a loved one that's lost. He's the first one there. He's the first one there reaching out saying, how can I help? How can I make things better? And if you think about all the lives that you have changed over the years and not even knowing it, that's power. That's power. And the reason why I started Citizen of the Month was just not to recognize ordinary people, but people that live in a community, that live a quiet life, but make a difference just by example, just by walking out the door every day to your job or changing your community or picking up the garbage out in front of your house or helping somebody with the groceries, helping someone cross the street. That's what it's about. That's when a kid looks up to you in your neighborhood and says, wow, that's how you do things, or how you talk to somebody. Simply how you talk to somebody. How your mannerisms are. That's what you do day in and day out. Even when you're not there preaching on Sunday. Even when you're out in the community. That's what it's about. And I sit back and I wonder how many people you did effectively change. And they'll never come to you. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's just they moved on. Maybe they just got what they needed at that moment in church and never came back. But you set them on the right path. Until they fall off that path again, they'll be back in. But you sent them there. Sometimes you wonder why people stop coming. They got what they needed. But you changed the outcome. And that's the effect you've had on this community.
I'm looking forward to the day when those things are pulled down and we're able to see Albany as a one community. When that day comes, that's the time when we really have made the success in Albany that all of us are really dreaming for. As long as we say Albany and then we say South End, Arbor Hill, and West Hill, at that particular point, every time I hear that, I say we've not arrived. We've still got a lot of work to do. But I'm hopeful, because I believe that we have the right people in place to change our city, to change our region, and to bring to pass the great things that Albany has in store for us. And as we continue to move forward with one voice and on one accord, I'm convinced that you have a special role to play. And the thing that's in my heart is this: if we wait for a title, or if we wait for a position to get anything done, nothing is going to get done. We need to roll up our sleeves and find a way to get involved right where we're at if we're going to make any change whatsoever. And we have to make the change on the level that we're on, or else we're not going to make a change at all. We're going to continue to spin our wheels until we find a way to move forward and to establish things for our children and our grandchildren. You see, the reason I'm up here is not because of the great things that I've done. I believe the reason I'm up here is sitting here to my right on the front, my sister Maureen, and my mom, my dad, and my grandmother, who spent years and years and years instructing us. Esther Traynham, James Traynham, Maud E. Scott. My father coming from the hills of Virginia up to Albany, and birthing 6 children here, making certain that we had clothes on our backs as he worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time, bartending, butchering. He worked construction right before the construction industry started drying up. My mom who worked, all day long, walking over to Trinity Place from Bassett Street, her ankles were swollen. You couldn't tell where her foot ended and her leg began. But they loved us and they cared for us and they provided for us, just like so many of your mothers that are, mothers and fathers that are seated in this room. We didn't have the best, but we had it all. I didn't even realize I was poor until I was about 15 and we're eating dinner. And my mom and my dad said, we're poor. And I'm eating, I'm saying, you mean we're poor? I didn't associate, cardboard in my sneakers because there was holes in there. I didn't associate that with being poor. I didn't associate having 2 sets of clothes for a whole school year as being poor. I didn't associate, just not, having it wasn't even butter, it was a margarine sandwich with the bread that was 2 loaves for 15 cents at the fruit garden. I didn't associate all that with being poor, but the reality is this: my mom and my dad, they provided for us, just like your mother and your father provided for you. And God, God forbid we never give the acknowledgement to our parents and our grandparents that have gone before us, who instilled in us the values that we have, who didn't, my father, what I love about him, he never talked negatively about somebody of a different race. And my mom would always say, you treat everybody the right way. Don't you dare look at somebody with cross eyes and look at them and say that they're less than you. I don't care if you're in the gutter. I don't care if you're in the White House. I'm going to treat you the same. And if we don't like what's going on in our city, we need to find a way to change these things by being who we're supposed to be. Because I believe with all of my heart that we need to have a commitment. And in my heart, I'm committed to the things that I've set my hand to. Last night we had a meeting at the Albany County Land Bank, and I'm committed to see our city come up. I'm committed to see housing raised up. I'm committed to see the disparities in hiring, eliminated in our region. I'm committed to see not only people that are hooked on opioids and drugs get a chance to be free, but I'm committed to go back and to find out a way in which to get some of those that are in prison out of prison. Because what's happened is we put some in prison before, we call them criminals, and now that we have a whole different view of it, now we're saying it's a disease, but yet we still have some, especially African Americans, still in prison. What are we going to do to get them out of prison? When are we going to find a way to change our mentality and be bold enough to change some of the things that we did? And I'm committed to see, the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ preached in this region, and I'm going to use words only if necessary. You see, if my life doesn't portray who I am, then what I have to say means nothing to anybody. And so I'm here to thank you for being here. I'm here to thank County Executive Dan McCoy and also my friend Phil Calderon in the back, for just acknowledging the things that I did. And as he said, I don't do them, to get any accolades. I don't do them to get any type of ceremony. I do them because it's the right thing to do. And when the FBI asked, me to be the recipient of the Director's Award for Community Service, at first I'm saying, who, me? And then I just felt in my heart, yeah, you. It's because sometimes the hardest thing to do is to accept, the praises of other people. This morning, and I wasn't going to say anything, but this morning we're leaving home and I told my wife, and I'm never nervous. I've stood before people at the Times Union Center. I've prayed and I've spoken to crowds, but for some reason I left home today. I said, honey, for some reason I'm nervous. And she looks at me and she starts laughing. And she says, why? You've spoken to everybody. This isn't the first time. But I think more than anything, it's because of the legacy that not only that I have received from my mom and my dad and my grandmother, but the legacy I'm hoping to leave for my grandsons and my daughters, for your sons and your daughters. as we make this city and this region the best that it could be. Again, thank you for being here today. Thank you, County Executive Dan McCoy, for choosing me and letting me come and be honored today. For John McDonald, thank you. Neil Breslin, and also every one of you that are out there. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I love you, and may God continue to bless your life and bless our county, because we've got great things in store because you are part of it. I love you, and God bless you.